Welcome in to the day after. What's up, everybody? Just getting rolling here. This is going to be this is going to be an interesting one here, man. I was not expecting to do a show like this today, but it does happen, unfortunately. Definitely was not expecting that yesterday. A lot of talk going on, a lot of talk, and I'm going to do my best to decipher what I think is good and what I think is bad. Fire Doug P. What's up, Sean? Coming in already. Listen, fire Doug P. Is it Doug P? That's the biggest thing. Is it Doug? Is it Carson Wentz, man? Is it the? Listen, I am so distraught right now. I don't know about you guys, but it's been on my mind watching that game, going into that game, thinking, are we watching a regression of Carson Wentz? And listen, I like Carson, I do, and I've been one of the biggest advocates for Carson Wentz since he's been here. Okay, ever since Nick Foles took over, and listen, he didn't have it yesterday. He just does not look good right now. He does not look comfortable. Listen, Doug P. is. We all know who Doug P is, right? Carson's never had a number one receiver ever. Sean, you're right. I agree with that. Listen, we've talked about that, right? We've talked about that before, about him maybe trying to do too much, right? We've talked about him maybe trying to do too much, and I understand that, but he's missing throws. Like his accuracy has been way off. He looks very skittish back there in the pocket. He looks very hesitant anymore. I'm just not sure, what really happened. I don't know. Stunk yesterday, but never had a number one. Yeah, he listen. He did. He played really bad yesterday. Okay, say what you want. Carson Wentz played bad, and you gotta call Carson out on that. You do, but. This, you got to call. How about Jim Schwartz? Like, there's so much that went on in this game, and we're going to get to Carson Wentz, and we're going to get to the offense, which I thought was very, very poor yesterday. I think the offensive line played well. They didn't give up one sack yesterday. But I'll tell you what, Sean McVay and Jared Goff made Jim Schwartz look like an idiot yesterday. They pulled his punk card on the other sideline, and they were able to do whatever they wanted to do on the field, up and down. They ran it in their throat. And what did they do? Here's another thing, Sean, they exposed the linebacking core that we've been talking about for weeks. They exposed Nathan Gary, okay, who can't cover me. Okay, they expose the linebacking core, something that for some reason we don't feel like is valuable. We never have, but we have Tyler Higbee all becoming a Pro Bowler instantaneously, okay, for the LA Rams in one day in our house. Listen, that's where Doug comes in, the inability to make changes. I agree. Listen, Doug is a mental midget at times. He is. And for everybody, let's just take a deep breath for a second, okay? And let's just calm down the Jalen Hurts talk. Okay, let's just calm down the Jalen Hurts talk. It's one thing I'm going to say. Let's just calm it down. Let's reel it in a little bit and say, okay, I get Carson Wentz is not on his game. I am not giving up on Carson Wentz. I am not ready to put Jalen Hurts in a quarterback. People have to stop. We knew this was going to happen when they selected Jalen Hurts. We absolutely knew the first bad game, the first, back-to-back bad games, they were going to be calling for Carson. I understand. I knew this was going to happen. But you have to look at what this offense has become. This offense has become very predictable. This offense has become very stagnant. Right? The reason why we won in 2017 is because the offense was very good. It wasn't bland. It wasn't stagnant. It kept you guessing. There were so many different angles of that offense that the opposing defensive coordinator had to take in consideration. There was a lot of things that happened, in 2017. Okay. And that's not happening right now. It's not. Also, Sean says also the inability to make adjustments. He flat out told Pam Oliver at half against Washington they didn't need to make any adjustments, just score more points. Look what happened. Doug needs to go. I love the statement. I love it. Absolutely love it. And the one thing I will say is, I'm a little perturbed at both Carson Wentz and Miles Sanders. Okay, Carson Wentz, for number one, kind of echoing the same thing in the press conference, like, yeah, and even Brandon Graham, yeah, it's okay, we're good. Couple things, man, couple things, got to clean it up. Couple things. Are they watching the same game that we are? From different viewpoints here, they have a lot to clean up. There's not just a couple things to clean up. It's just not a couple things that they need to do. They need to rebuild the entire thing right now. Okay, they need to get everything back. They need to get that mojo back. They need to start playing like a championship caliber team. And I understand that they may have not had Super Bowl aspirations this year, but listen, you're in a division right now where you watch that Cowboys and Falcons game. The Cowboys showed more heart in that game than we've showed all year long. Okay, say what you want. Say it was a mistake. We watched Matt Ryan and we watched Dan Quinn do this before, but at least Dallas wanted that game. We didn't show any of that yesterday. We showed nothing, absolutely nothing. And I will say this, everybody's killing Carson Wentz for that interception. Okay, or killing J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Why would you throw to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? Listen, I understand, but J.J. Arcega-Whiteside had the opening. He was open. Carson's throw was terrible and late, and that's what happened right there. If Carson throws the ball when he's supposed to and gives him the angle he should, that ball is caught. The safety doesn't have the opportunity to even make that kind of play, and it's a touchdown. And we're not even having this conversation. It's showing you what has happened to Carson Wentz. He needs to be better. The backup quarterback is always the best quarterback on the roster. Listen, Brian, isn't that the truth? How long have we gone into that scenario, right? I mean, that's Nick Foles written all over it. He's like Chip. Early success, it gets complacent. Teams figure him out. And, listen, the one thing I will give Doug, I won't say he's like Chip. I think he's a little more intelligent than Chip. And again, but one thing, you're right, he cannot make on-the-fly adjustments. That's a big deal for him. Carson has to be out of the pocket defense like a high school team. Pete, I don't get what was going on with the defense yesterday, man. They only got the one sack on Jared Goff yesterday. They were never in the backfield. Fletcher Cox looked gassed the entire game. He looked like he wasn't even a factor at all. Especially, listen, Fletch. This is a big game for Fletch. When he had a lot of talk when he was going through the contract situation, and he started talking about Aaron Donald wanted to be paid like the best defensive tackle in the league. Well, guess what, Fletch? I like you. I love you, dude. I think you're fantastic, but you need to ball out. If you have the opportunity to go against the opposing player who you felt like you should be paid as good or more than on the other side of the team, you need to ball out and show that. You didn't show that to me yesterday. You didn't show that to me. Again, the defense came up small. How's that Jalen Mills experiment working at safety? How's that Jalen Mills experiment working? Again, we went into this year very unprepared. We went into this year thinking that we were just going to be able to Band-Aid things together, and that doesn't happen. Let me just say something. Let me get on a tangent here about the safety position and how much it pains me and irritates the hell out of me. Okay? And this is for people that follow me, and this is for people that don't follow me. If anybody watched the Seattle game last night, and if you watch the last 2 weeks Seattle play, and you watch a guy named Jamal Adams just completely ball out in his early 20s, in his prime, just taking over the defense, and you said you wouldn't give up the draft capital to get him, how good would he have looked on this team right now? Okay, Jamal Adams was the move. He was the move. He was there. That's the guy that needed to be come in here. He is the guy. No matter what we want to talk about salary, no matter what we want to talk about cap, figure it out. At the end of the day, figure it out. That's all I got to say, because listen, it's not my money. I really don't care. All I know is at the end of the day, you need to figure it out. You're put in that position to figure it out. That's one thing for sure. And if Howie can't figure it out, then he needs to go too. Andre, what's up, buddy? A-Bomb checking in. We have to get better. Let's 86 that phrase. Every time I hear it, I get sick. I am so tired of we have to get better. I'm so tired. I don't know which is worse. Is it we have to get better, or I need to put players in better positions to make plays? That's on me. I don't know which one gets older. I really don't. But listen, we're not going down a good strength here. Really. Jim checks in. Is Adams enough? Listen, Jim, here's the thing. Is Adams enough? I think listen, I don't think he's enough. But what I think is he is a major stumbling or a major building block in that secondary that they lost at Malcolm Jenkins. And I was following yesterday, Jim. And you're like me. They really missed Malcolm Jenkins yesterday. Okay, they really missed Malcolm Jenkins yesterday. Okay, so what I will say is Jamal Adams would have covered that part of the game up. Andre, one-sided Doug Donald has a major impact on the game, meaning they prepared so much for him. We totally didn't prepare for the offense. Yeah, we didn't. Not at all. I don't know what Jim Schwartz was doing, man. I don't. I mean, we looked dazed and confused out there. We really do. Brian checks in. Question: is Peterson too friendly with the players? He's known as a player's coach. He puts these guys, especially the vets, hard enough during camp, even when they were. Listen, Brian, I agree with you with that. I do. I mean, there is such thing as a player's coach, and I get it. Pete Carroll's a player's coach, but Pete Carroll's a motivator. You see Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll, that's a guy I want to go play for. Pete Carroll's a guy I want to go play for. He gets me fired up in front of my TV. Okay? That's the difference between Pete Carroll and Doug Peterson. People aren't taking advantage of Pete Carroll. I think people take advantage of Doug Peterson. Say what you want. I really do. I think they do it. And when, again, and I hate to say this, and I know people are going to get mad at this, but when do we go back and when do we revisit the conversation of people not liking to play for Carson Wentz? I hate to say it. I do. I hate to say it. I think you need to start talking about it. I do. I hate to say it because I'm a Carson guy, but I'm telling you what, this team never looks the same with Carson, ever. They never look the same with Carson. I don't know what it is. This team looks boring. This team looks flat. This team looks uninterested and totally unprepared. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure. It's just odd because I understand that report by Joe S. came out. I'm not even going to say his last name, but I remember it came out and you had the Alshon Jeffrey issues and the Josina Anderson stuff. And, I'm a firm believer that where there's smoke, there's fire. I've always said that. Now, how big that fire is, we don't know. It could be small, it could be big. I'm not sure, but I think there was something to that. I really do, because it got buried in it. And I'm telling you, the more and more this goes on, the more I start to believe it. I do, because Carson just doesn't look like the guy right now. I just don't get what's going on. Andre second in, got a Sixers A-bomb as well. Andre, keep that in your back pocket for right now. We will get to that, I promise. I love it. Jim checking in. The Wentz extension might look worse than the prior. Now, Jim, listen, with all due respect, dude, I love you, brother. I really do. But there's no way that Wentz extension is going to look worse than Ryan Howard's extension. And here's the thing. Ryan Howard's extension only looked bad because he got hurt. Okay, let's face it. We really can't say that extension looked bad for Ryan Howard if he doesn't blow out his Achilles against St. Louis. So I'm not sure. More to think about that statement. To be continued, I should say. Because I think if, we can't base Ryan Howard's extension on an injury. I just don't think that we could do that. Andre second in. Psychology 101. When an underdog wins a Super Bowl, they always feel they are good enough to beat anybody, which is false reality the next year. Listen, the new norm, right? Hey, Doug, where's the new norm? Remember Doug? Doug danced around, shotgunning beers at the parade, in the locker room, say, yo, this is the new norm, man. This is the new norm. Okay, well, Doug, I'll tell you what. If this is the freaking new norm, well, then we need to go back to the old norm, because the new norm absolutely sucks. It really does. What's up, Ed? Checking in. I think the coach's fault. It's his job to have them focus 100%. This ultimately goes on the coach. You don't fire the players, you fire the manager. We all know about that, right? If the players aren't producing, you look at the coach. Rod Gardenhire just got fired in Detroit, right? The Tigers absolutely stink, right? They stink. So what happened? You fire the coach, don't fire the players. Jay Gruden, he stunk. Fire Jay Gruden, you keep the players. I mean, it's what you do, and the simple fact that that Lurie loves Doug Peterson, I don't know, man. I mean, there could be something to be keeping him here. I'm not sure, but I think Doug has to be on the hot seat this year. This team has spent too much money to look like this. You can say what you want. I still think they're the number one receiver. I get it. I 100% agree with that. They still need that part of the game, but I'll tell you, man, you're paying a lot of money on this team, and they need to produce a lot better and show that they're prepared 100%. At least Ryan played in the game for the chip. That is true, Andre. That is true. It's a good way. Look at the top 10 teams, look by position, and lost most of, you know what, Pete? You're right, man. You know, Pete's on fire today with the comments. He's absolutely right. You look at those top 10 teams. Hey, maybe people were right? Maybe Madden was right to not have Carson Wentz in the top 10. Maybe people were right not to put Carson Wentz in the top 100. Maybe people were right to put the Eagles at 13. I don't know. I mean, remember how distraught we were with that in the offseason? Maybe we were looking through smoke and mirrors. I don't know. I mean, listen, are we too close to the situation to be able to see? I don't know. I mean, even Dan Orlovsky, who's a huge Carson Wentz advocate, has even turned on Carson a little bit, saying that, come on, Carson, you have to get better. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure what this is, and I'm not sure how you fix it. I'm really not. And again, maybe it is the coach, right? Maybe it is the coach. I'm not a Doug Peterson guy. You guys know that. Never been a Doug Peterson guy. I still think that Frank Reich was the reason why they won that Super Bowl. It is what it is. I know we got past that, but listen, man, Andre checking in, Doug talking about mass and social distance, what he was talking about, the new norm. Yo, that comment of the day, Andre, absolutely. Mass and social distance, that wasn't a new norm, man. The new norm sucks, by the way. If Wentz isn't the guy, well, that is true. Revenue is revenue is definitely going to go down next year. They've already said that, right? They've already said that the revenues are going to shrink, which was pretty curious when you look at some of the extensions given out to guys like Dalvin Cook and David Johnson and things of that nature. But what I will say is, the money is going to be an issue for the Eagles going forward. They really need guys to step up. And listen, when you miss on complete drafts, it's okay to miss on guys here or there, but when you lose an entire draft like 2017, and I'm even putting Derek Barnett in that equation because Derek Barnett has come up this big for me. Okay, Derek Barnett, I didn't like the pick when they picked him. I still think he comes up this big. That whole 2017 draft is trash. And think about it. It takes usually at least 2 years for a rookie to be very, very productive after the first round, which means this would have been the year when guys like Donnell Pumphrey would have been backing up our running back. Guys like Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones would have been out there developed into our starting cornerback tandem. But again, because we can't draft and we can't talent evaluate, we lose a whole draft. And that's what's killing us right now. We have no depth. We got to keep signing practice squad guys. We got to keep signing free agents because we cannot produce internal depth. It's a major problem. There's a loophole in Wentz's contract. They get out of it to me. Yeah, you know what, Brian, I think you're right. I have to look into that, but I'm almost positive that the way that contract was constructed was it did give them an out after the first couple years, which will be interesting. Will be really, really interesting. It's hard when we talk about Jalen Hurts. It is because it's hard not to get excited because Jalen Hurts and not his ability, right? I'm not going to talk about his ability because I can't talk about his professional ability because I haven't seen him play yet. But when I look at the stature of his frame and I look at the way he is compacted, he looks just like a guy like Kyler Murray. He looks just like a guy like Russell Wilson, a guy that's going to be able to move around in a pocket and make things happen. Listen, maybe we were all thrown for a loop here. Maybe we were all blindsided. Maybe this Jalen Hurts pick was for a reason. Maybe we are definitely seeing why they picked Jalen Hurts. I don't know, but I'm telling you right now, we cannot continue with the Carson Wentz that we have right now. It's simple as that. We cannot continue with that. Brian, first time, what's up, buddy? Checking in. Thanks for watching. If it's not Wentz, it's the coach. They have been the same since the offensive coordinator left. Think about it. Listen, Brian, I like Wentz, okay? I'm going to say this again. I am a avid Carson Wentz supporter. But when you watch the game film, and you break it down and you watch the things that he's doing, the regression is real. I hate to say it, but the regression is real. There are a lot of throws that he needs to have back. There are a lot of throws that in this offense that could have worked, okay? Yesterday, he was 26 of 43. Not great. 242 yards and 2 interceptions. I mean, listen, they ran the ball yesterday, right? They ran the ball 26 times. Miles Sanders was 4.8 yards per carry. I mean, he was fairly productive, right? He was definitely productive, but there was a lot of throws in that game that Carson Wentz missed. There was a lot of throws that if he makes, it may be a different game. Honestly, think about it. I mean, he's thrown in a double. This is how you know Carson's not Carson. He's throwing into double coverages. He's forcing a lot of throws. He's forcing routes. He's just not the same. We don't see him adjust. That's another thing. Let me ask you guys this, because here, and Brian, this will be a good one for you. One thing was told to us that Doug wanted more control of the offense and Carson to have less control. If you remember in 2017, Carson Wentz was doing lots of line checks. He was doing a lot. I mean, we were talking about Carson Wentz as doing more audibles than Peyton Manning. We were talking about Carson Wentz being able to read the field and the coverages at the line. He was making all the right audibles, all the right checkdowns, all the right reads. I don't see any of that with Carson Wentz this year. Zero. I do not see. Now, I don't know if that's a coaching philosophy. I don't know if they said, listen, Carson, here's a play, you need to run it. I don't know, but it seems like they've taken away some of his freedom from a play calling standpoint up on that line behind center. Yeah, exactly. Andre checking in, man. Kill. I mean, how often do you hear that anymore, Andre? How often do you hear Carson Wentz changing up the cadence at the line? He's not the same guy, and I hate it. Listen, guys, I hate this. I do. I hate it, and I'm not ready to just throw the book out and say, listen, we need to bench Carson Wentz. I'm not ready for that. I'm not. I still think that we need to give this a chance. And again, let me ask you this, and Andre, this is going to be a good one for you too. And I ask this because, and this wasn't from me, this was from a comment that I seen on Twitter. So why does everybody in the town, when we talk about this, let's talk about the Sixers for a minute, and they're just going to help my point out here. So with the Sixers, everybody wanted to run Brett Brown out, right? And they wanted to keep Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and say, we want to give them another chance under a different coach. But half of our fan base is ready to run Carson Wentz out of here before the coach. So I'm on the side of I'm keeping Carson and I'm getting a new coach and a new philosophy. I'm not getting rid of Carson and keeping Doug. So I just don't understand why a lot of people in Philadelphia are more on the side of let's bench Carson, let's cut Carson, let's trade Carson. Carson's not the guy, when they're not looking at Doug enough, in my opinion. I think you need to look at Doug like Brett Brown. Doug has been given the tools he needs, right? It's his job to make sure that Carson Wentz is in the right position. I hate to say it, but and here's the other thing. How many people here watched the Chargers game yesterday? How many people watched the Chargers and Kansas City game? Justin Herbert comes in, last-minute adjustment, last-minute scratch to Tyrod Taylor. And here comes Justin Herbert, straight out of Oregon, green as hell. And he looked fantastic. You know why? Because Anthony Lynn constructed a game plan and had his quarterback prepared. Something, again, that Doug Peterson did not. Okay? That's why I want to see Doug gone before Carson. That's why I want to see Carson under a different quarterback. Listen, look what Sean McVay did. Okay? I'm a Sean McVay guy. I really like Sean McVay. I think he's one of the very most brilliant offensive minds, young minds in the NFL. Josh McDaniels, I truly adore in a sense of, from an offensive standpoint. Look what he did with Jared Goff. He built an offense around Jared Goff's strengths, right? Jared Goff looked lost last year. He looked absolutely lost. And what did McVay do? He changed everything around to make him more comfortable, to play into his strengths, something that Doug has not been able to do. Doug has just not been able to do it. Pete checking in. Wentz sits in the pocket, doesn't feel well. Needs to roll out and see his receivers. Listen, I'm all about the rollout, Pete. I am, and I've said this before. I don't think Carson does enough with sensing pressure, even though he did a little bit better yesterday. And again, is here. Let me ask you this: is he sitting in the pocket long because his players aren't getting open, because he doesn't have the talent around him to be able to get open? Or, and another thing I have to say about Doug with the play calling is Doug calling too many plays that take too long to develop. That's been a problem before, where the play calling, some of these offensive plays, these long slants, the long deep posts, the long crossing patterns, right? A lot of times what was happening with them is they were taking so long to develop. It was putting the player in a bad position. Okay. And maybe that's it too. I mean, it could be a mixture, but Carson definitely has to do better with that. Almost it's like Doug said, trust me, don't read the defense. I agree. Let's see Wentz under another offensive minded head coach. 100%. That's what I want to see. I don't think Wentz should be benched, Brian. I'm with you, Brian, but I think one of the questions is always the same in Philly. Is the city eating him alive? Is it in his head now? That is a tremendous point. I'm telling you, that is a tremendous point. Carson, even though he's a very faithful human being and he looks like a very strong-willed human being, he has been through a lot in the last 3 years with injuries. He watched himself get injured and get his team to a certain point and watch the backup quarterback come in and win a Super Bowl. He watched the backup quarterback come in the following year and almost take them to the promised land once again. He hears everybody in the background. Brian, you're right. Philly is a tough city to play in. 100%. Is it in his head? It very well could be. I mean, his press conference yesterday, he seemed thoroughly annoyed. He really did. He did not seem like the normal, just shake it off kind of Carson Wentz. He seemed thoroughly annoyed. I think it was getting to him. So I think, it's not eating him up yet, but it's definitely starting to nibble at him. It really is. So, Brian, that's a tremendous comment. I completely agree with you. Andre, it's simple. When you have the players, the right abilities, the coaching is the issue if they are not executing 100%. And we have the right players except for the receivers, okay? We have the right players except for the receivers in the sense that we don't have that number one guy. We don't. That's the one thing, man. That's the one thing. Compare with both quarterback. Goff rolled out, was on. Wentz did it and did exactly. And Pete, I agree with you. And again, this is a coaching philosophy, because remember, the whole point of Carson Wentz, not getting hurt was to, stand in the pocket, get rid of the ball. We don't want him rolling out. We don't want him. We don't want him running, right? When he was taking too many hits, he's getting injured. I mean, he has been through so many different offensive changes in the last couple of years and different philosophies getting into his head. I don't know. Maybe it's hurting him more than helping him. So I really, really think that we need a different voice in here. I do. And again, this whole let's have 5 offensive coordinators, it's not working, Doug. It's just not working. We know it's you. We understand that it's got to be you. And I think maybe, Doug, maybe you need to stick to coach and let somebody else call the plays and see what happens. Bring somebody else in here. Do something differently, man. I'm serious. It is not working right now. It's just not working. When people like 27 leave, we don't have anyone to balance it to out. 100%. Andre, he was the leader on defense. He was a quarterback on defense. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You miss Malcolm Jenkins dearly on this team. You really do. I don't think you have the guy to rally the troops. I just don't think you have that guy. The guy's not here, he's just not here. And that sideline looked whooped yesterday. They look beat up. They look like they were looking for answers. They really do. Jim Schwartz looked like, up and down the sideline. He had no idea what was going on. No idea. I mean, his players were getting burnt all day long. And give that to McVay. McVay just completely took his playbook, threw it right, shoved it right up Schwartz's ass, and he had no answer for it. Zero. I listen, obviously you guys follow me. I do a lot of fantasy work, and I was huge on Tyler Higbee this week. I said Tyler Higbee is going to get open early and often. I didn't predict he was going to go with 3 touchdowns, but it just shows that, I knew that they were going to take advantage of a weakened linebacking core for the Philadelphia Eagles. I just knew that was going to happen. So, listen, there's just a ton of questions. There really is. I mean, it is just, listen, it's not over. It's only Monday. It's only Monday. And I'll tell you, I know it's early, and I know the line is like 6.5 when we're talking about giving points against Cincinnati, but please, Philadelphia, do not sleep on Cincinnati. Don't sleep on Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is balling out there. Zach Taylor has his team playing. They're a young team, and they're a hungry team. They're not going to win more than 5 or 6 games this year. They're not. But they're going to be competitive, and they're going to be in these games. And listen, I'll tell you what, Joe Burrow throws one of the sweetest balls I've ever seen, especially for a young quarterback. So if you think he's going to come in here, okay, and the Philadelphia defense is going to shut him out, you're going to be sadly mistaken. This offense needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed this week, because you can say what you want about the Bengals. I'll tell you what, I'm concerned. I'm very, very concerned. If this team starts out 0-3, man, oh man. I mean, people are jumping off the bridge now at 0-2. But you imagine the team starts out 0-3, just not good. It's just not good. It's not. This Philadelphia Cardinals, the Rams literally took what the Eagles should have. 3 touchdowns to the tight end. Yeah, man. I like how they were running the ball. I thought they should have went to the tight ends more. I'm not sure what kind of covers the Rams were giving them, but it just didn't work yesterday. Brian checking in. I don't get why Barrow isn't talked about like Peyton Manning came out. Luck, he used to. Brian, I agree with you 100%. I mean, your comments there are spot on. I really appreciate you joining the show and making us more interactive and giving us some fantastic discussion points, because I don't know why Barrow isn't talked about either, like Peyton Manning came out or Andrew Luck, because especially Andrew Luck, because when Andrew Luck came out as a rookie, he was on fire. He was absolutely on fire. You remember that in Indianapolis, and he was taken right over for Peyton Manning, and and he shrugged all that adversity off, and he was just lights out. Now, obviously, Joe Burrow didn't have that kind of stick to compare himself to, because he was just backing up Andy Dalton. But AJ Green being healthy this year, Tyler Boyd being a really, really nice receiver, John Ross, Joe Mixon, Gio Bernard, Zach Taylor is a very underrated play caller. I've been telling people this, give Zach Taylor some time. That's the one thing they thought. Listen, he's in Cincinnati. He had to rebuild an entire team, man, from the offensive line to the offensive structure to the culture. He had to do a lot, and I'll tell you what, they got their guy. Listen, Joe Burrow is the real deal. Joe Burrow is the guy. He is the guy for Cincinnati. They are going to be very, very good. And one thing's apparent right now. Look at the torch going around the NFL. Right now, you look at these young quarterbacks, man. It is exciting. I'll tell you what, it is. And poor Drew Lock looks like he's out 2 to 6 weeks with an AC sprain, AC joint sprain, which I was excited for Drew Lock. I want to see him play as well, because I love watching these young quarterbacks kind of, Justin Herbert playing his butt off yesterday, just taking control of the opportunity. Josh Allen, no matter what anybody says, just absolutely obliterating the competition. 424 yards. Again, I mean, the guy was just phenomenal. I know he misses some throws, but man, think about that. Josh Allen is learning on the fly. He's learning how to throw on the fly. This guy could not throw to anybody last year, right? And still did well. And now this year he comes back to back. He's thrown for almost 800 yards in 2 weeks, has a 70% quarterback percentage when we're talking about completion percentage. And he's even throwing bad at times, and he's still working on it and still being successful. Listen, the Buffalo Bills were my pick to go to the AFC Championship game. They are now 2-0, and I'm sticking with it, man. I think Josh Allen is the real deal. I love what they did with Stephon Diggs, and I love watching these young quarterbacks play. These young quarterbacks, man, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, all these young guys. I mean, this is a great time to be an NFL fan. It really is. I mean, it's a great time. I know it sucks what's going on in Philadelphia, and we are going to get past this, but if we look at the entire landscape, in the NFL, it's a really good time to be a fan, man. Really good time. You think about those years when, they had Dan Marino and Joe Montana, all these, these good quarterbacks in the NFL. And now we get to witness that maybe tenfold with the amount of young talent that we get to see behind center, which is great. There was a time in the game where the wide receiver for the Rams was punking our DBs. You were all a bunch of talk, was what they're yelling. You know what? You're right. You're right. Think about that. The wide receiver from the Rams, I think it might have been Robert Woods, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been Robert Woods, but they had a problem with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. And again, it's play calling, Andre. It's just play calling. Yeah, they definitely had the better receivers, but I'll tell you what, when you put those guys in the proper positions to be able to make those plays, good things happen. Good things happen. Andre, we're going to get to your A-bomb tomorrow. Okay, I just want to talk some football tomorrow. Let's touch base again tomorrow when, we see what day two brings. Okay, that's the day after Monday. Let's see what comes out Monday. Let's see what kind of injuries we're dealing with. Let's see, any press conferences. Let's hear Doug Pete talk a little bit. See if we can, break that down tomorrow. And then we're going to talk about some Sixers tomorrow too. Let's touch on some Sixers tomorrow. Talk about the coaching. Talk about what we're going to see going forward. Are they going to mess with management? Upper management, which I think is one of the biggest issues. Andre, thanks. Another great show, brother. I appreciate it. Listen, man, I appreciate all you guys checking in. You guys make this show what it is. You give me the drive to do this every single day. I love it. I just want to prove to everybody that, everybody's opinion matters. Everybody's opinion counts. And listen, you don't have to wait on 20 minutes on hold to get your opinion shown. So that's why I did this. I was always a radio caller. I really was. And I enjoy it. I love sports talk radio. Obviously that's what I do, right? It's what I love, but I wanted to be more interactive. I wanted to give everybody a voice and let everybody know, listen, everybody's opinion means something, whether good or bad, agree or disagree, really doesn't matter. Let's get it all out in the open, because I'll tell you what, look at today. I mean, Pete was on fire. Pete, thanks for joining. Your comments were on point. Brian, again, comments on point, giving us other topics to talk about. And that's the thing. I come up with this agenda, and then I kind of let you guys roll, man. I like this. I like this format. It's been great. So remember, give me a follow at Ticatil23. Keep up the Twitter traffic, please. At Heat Ratio Sports. Follow the podcast, guys. If you don't follow our podcast, The Heat Ratio, at Heat Ratio Sports, please give us a like on Facebook. Heat Ratio Sports is the Facebook page. At Heat Ratio Sports is the Twitter handle. And wherever you get your iTunes, wherever you get your podcast from, whether it be on iTunes, Spotify, give us a follow on there as well. We do a show every single week. Me, Coach Dave, Pittsburgh John, the Wild Card, Mike Mataraki. We have a really good interactive show that goes live every Tuesday at 9:00, but it's also podcasted as well. So, and again, for all you fantasy guys out there, Fantasy Firebox, check us out. Me and PGH John 36, me and John Coker go live, every week now. We do some fantasy segments. I do some fantasy segments throughout the week on at Fox Sports The Gambler. Check that out as well. Again, I appreciate all the love, all the support. Thanks for being tremendous followers. Thanks for keeping this show going day after day. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you tomorrow.